A Supreme Court justice just did something to benefit Donald Trump, something that should be very concerning to every democracy-loving American.
They're saying you're trying to take over the republic.
I have that and much more in today's episode of What's
Trending.
Let's begin with some ominous predictions of where the Trump train of dictatorship is heading. Admittedly, with news breaking daily, I usually stay in the here and now with my reports and leave the crystal ball conspiracies to others. But Trump has gone so far beyond what I thought was possible. Nothing is off the table. And today I discovered two people who are smarter than I am, warning us about 2026 and 2028. Watch as filmmaker Rob Reiner and political scientist Barbara F. Walter outline Trump's planned escalation of his takedown of our democracy over the next 3.5 years. And then I'll have the shocking thing that the Supreme Court judge just did in the here and now.
This is just the beginning, and people have to understand our democracy is being taken away from us, and we only have about a year. Just to be clear about this, and people, you're doing a great job, and a lot of other people are doing a good job to tell people what is actually happening in this country. But make no mistake, we have a year before this country becomes a full-on autocracy and democracy completely leaves us. And we're looking at the election in 2026, and Donald Trump knows. He knows that in a free and fair election, he will lose. He will lose the House. The House will flip and will become into Democratic hands. There'll be committee chairs that'll be able to hold hearings. And this is the last thing he wants. So this little, these ICE agents and the National Guard, and now he's called the military in from all over the world to talk to them about, don't be surprised when polling booths are surrounded by American military in the guise of making sure that the elections are fair and that nobody's tampering with anything. And when you see violence breaking out, which there'll be protests, there'll be inciting violence, there'll be some violence, and they'll keep that. Then you'll see the commandeering of voting machines, ballot boxes, to make sure that that election is secure. Well, what that means is that he will then commandeer the election.
Trump is looking at 2028, and he has to figure out a way. How does he circumvent or avoid the rule that he can't run again? And I think one of the ways he's going to do that is to create what's perceived to be a real crisis in America. And I think it's going to have to do with violence. It's either going to be some sort of small armed conflict with an external enemy. And you've seen him do a little bit of this with the drug cartels in Mexico, or he's going to try to craft some sort of enemy within this country.
So that was a terrifying look into the future. And to get there, Trump needs to be supported by those who lie somewhere on the spectrum between sycophants and enablers. Enter Chief Justice Alito. His recent support of Trump came to my attention in a Raw Story article by David Edwards titled, "Took No Part. Judge Alito declines to take part in ruling against Trump ally." And here's the highlights.
The U.S. Supreme Court declined to consider Laura Loomer's petition, which alleged media censorship. In a statement on Monday, the High Court announced that Loomer's petition had been denied. Justice Samuel Alito took no part in the consideration or decision of this petition, the court added. Loomer, an ally of President Donald Trump, accused Mark Zuckerberg's Meta of conspiring with Procter & Gamble to censor her on Facebook. X-Corp and Jack Dorsey were also named as respondents. The petition claimed that the parties formed a racketeering enterprise, termed the Community Media Enterprise, to unlawfully suppress conservative political speech, specifically targeting Loomer's 2020 and 2022 congressional campaigns in Florida's 21st and 11th districts. Loomer claimed on X that nobody has been more viciously attacked than her.
Judge Alito is just one strand in Trump's web of allies. Allies who will support his assault on our democracy for the rest of his term, while the Democrat Party continues to flail. But something caught my eyes and ears this week, and that I hope the party and all people who reject Trump can rally around, and I hope this is the week that it takes off like a rocket, and I'm going to do my part to amplify it. Have a listen.
Governor J.B. Pritzker tonight is calling for President Trump to be removed, asking for the 25th Amendment to be invoked.
We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
Sending troops into cities thinking that that's some sort of proving ground for war, or that indeed there's some sort of internal war going on in the United States is just, frankly, inane. And I'm concerned for his health. There is something genuinely wrong with this man, and the 25th Amendment ought to be invoked.
Now, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is calling for Donald Trump to be removed from office via the 25th Amendment, marking the highest profile elected official to call on Donald Trump's removal from office.
Please repeat after me. 2547, 2547, Amendment 25, President 47. Trump was a master in turning simple phrases into rallying points like build the wall, lock her up, and drain the swamp. But those were just empty cliches for the base to repeat. 2547 is something he verifies every day with his unhinged words and actions, and it's a snowball racing downhill that the Republican Party and his enablers cannot ignore.